being up a pawn is not enough. I need to have high quality pieces. I need to have my rooks on an open file, my bishops on open diagonals. This game is an example of how to win when you're up just one pawn and how to make the most of the pieces that you have. This is round 5 of the EPA Amateur Championship. This is game in 75, delay 5. And yeah, I'm entering this round with 2.5 out of 4. I'm hoping to win at least one more game and end with a +2 score. I'm playing against Ben, really nice guy, goes to Binghamton University in New York. So happy to have the opportunity to play him. All right. He plays c4, and this is a no engine recap until the very end. Ben did tell me a couple things that he saw, and I will note what he saw with the engine. He told me after the game, not during the game. He told me after the game. And yeah, so I'll make sure to note that, but for the most part, this is a no engine recap and until the very end. I like to play, against c4, I like to play the e6, d5 setups. So playing it very solid. It can transpose to a Queen's Gambit declined. I found these setups to be very nice for white. Or for black, I mean. Definitely easy to play. He plays knight c3, which is a little bit surprising if he doesn't play d4. Usually in a lot of like Catalan, like Neo-Catalan systems, you usually don't want to commit the knight to c3. But I honestly don't really remember like all the details. One of the worst things that can happen, or one of the most frustrating things that can happen, is if you overextend in the opening and you don't really know fully what you're doing. So you like overextend and like, you know, because with great space comes great responsibility. And if you're not amply prepared, like it can be a little bit scary. Like, for example, like maybe after g3, maybe d5, playing d4 and then e5 is like the best thing to do. But I just wasn't 100% sure. Looking at it now, I'm like, yeah, it probably is the best thing to do. Just play d4, e5, and like then maybe I play knight f6 afterwards, and I just enjoy extra space. And I'm gonna play knight c6 next, and maybe bishop c5 after this knight on e4 goes away. Like looking at it now, this setup makes sense, and probably this is what the computer likes the most. If I had to guess, playing d4, e5 immediately. Unless there's some tactical reason why you can't do it. Instead of that though, I'm like, I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to play knight f6. And it can transpose to some like, if he plays d4 or knight f6, if he plays it like a Catalan, his knight on c3 is misplaced. Like, you don't usually play knight c3 this early in the Catalan. Sometimes you don't play it at all. Sometimes you put your knight on d2. And then like and c4 later, like so it's very like I was hoping we'd get a Catalan position, but he has a bad knight on c3. That's kind of what I was hoping for, but I wasn't really sure. I wanted to play it safe and just continue developing, which can't be bad either. So I played knight f6. He played bishop g2, putting his bishop on the wide open diagonal. I definitely considered taking on c4, and after queen a4 check, playing bishop c7. Bishop d7, and after queen takes, playing c5, giving up the pawn on b7. I thought about it. Looking at it now, this is very good for black, I think. Yeah. For example, if white plays knight f6, I can play knight d4, and the knight is pinned to the rook on h1. And if you castle, for example, then bishop... Oh, wait. The knight on c3 actually does something useful. Yeah, because I can't play bishop e5 because the knight would take. But I could, like, take here. But you're still up in exchange. Actually, you're really close to getting checkmated with bishop c6. Yeah, that's what's happening. You're almost getting checkmated here. But you could play queen e7 here. Or queen e2, I mean. And I guess white is fine. Okay, I buy it. So it's not a good sacrifice. So I'm glad I didn't do it then. I am glad I didn't do it. Yeah, it's probably good for white. So I'm going to play bishop e7. Once again, playing it safe. I'm getting ready to castle. I can think about expanding in the center after I'm done castling. If he wants to commit a pawn to d4, fine. I'm happy with that. That's going to be fine. I'm not going to overcommit this early. I'm not in super familiar waters right now. And he really surprised me with his next move, knight h3. And I was like, whoa. Like, knight h3? And honestly, it's kind of legit. Like, he said he like made it up at the board, but honestly, I think it's a totally legit way to play. Looking at it now, maybe white can expand in the center with f4. Maybe like f4 and b3 and bishop b2, and then maybe you can rotate your knight back later. Maybe you can play knight g5 later and then knight f3. Maybe you can play knight f4, which is what he did in the game, and it pressures d5. And if you ever push e5, then d5 square is weak, and it's actually like really tricky. Actually, I actually really like this because it's just very different. Like, I cannot play it as if he played knight f3 because his bishop is open, his knight can go to f4 and control different squares than it usually would on f3. So this one move actually has a lot of ramifications and makes the game entirely different. So very, very interesting move, knight h3 there. I castle, and he plays b3. So he's fully committing to the hyper modern setup, like fully committing to it. And I was like, wow, like that's impressive. Like I really thought he would play maybe d4, maybe e3. If d4, it feels like I should be able to take. But once again, this knight on c3 makes it nice. I'm definitely going to play c5 next for sure. Like if it takes castles and c5, now it's just a Catalan, but with a knight on h3, which and a knight on c3, like it feels like really good for black. Like this feels very good for black. So, yeah. So I would hope he would play like I was thought he might play e3 or d4 or something. But played b3, which made sense. You know, you do want to defend your pawn on c3 or on c4. I mean, but yeah, I just picked the center. I play c5. I think it's a pretty principled way to play. Like, hey, my opponent's playing on the flank. You know what? I'm gonna gain more space now. Perfect. And one of the things I was considering is, well, what happens if he takes the pawn on d5 and plays d4? Like, what if he gives me an isolated queen's pawn? Am I okay with this? And my answer was yes. Yes, I am. I play knight d6 with tempo. If he goes back to d2 or d1, for example, then maybe I can play rook e8, bishop c5, bishop e6 maybe if I'm worried about losing the pawn. Actually, the pawn is hanging. So I might just play bishop e6 here. And I'm like, yeah, I'm totally fine here. Although, in this case, knight f4 looks a little bit annoying. So maybe I have to be very careful here. Thinking about it out loud. I could play bishop b4. Yeah, I could play this. I could play this. And if a3, then I have knight e4. And if bishop takes, and takes, and this should be good for me. Oh, the knight is hanging on h3 too, for what that's worth. It looks a little bit scary. But it should be fine. Yeah, scary but fine, probably. Yeah, this is pretty scary. Anyways, very off track here. So I did think about it, and my conclusion was I'm okay, and he's not castled yet, but maybe I'm not okay. Like, maybe he could have actually punished me with this setup, and maybe he could have been like, yeah, man, what are you doing with that pawn? Maybe I have to go d4 here, and if he takes, that's really good for me because his light squares are very weak. And if he goes knight d4, that's also fine. Because maybe I even have bishop b4 check in some cases. Maybe I take this first, take the knight first. Oh yeah. He cannot go knight e4 because his bishop's overloaded. It's me when I eat too many tacos. Overloaded. Okay. So I was worried about it, or I did think about it at the very least. But I decided I'm at least okay. But now he plays knight f4. And I was like, okay, this is the idea of the setup. Of knight h3, knight f4. The idea is maximum pressure on d5. And if I don't do anything, well, this pawn is just hanging. The d5 pawn is just hanging at this point. And if I ever push and play e5, then the knight can go to d5. And this knight is beautiful on this square. Beautiful. Well defended by the bishop and the pawn. And I spent a long time after knight f4 evaluating this whole sequence of moves. And I was like, if I play f5, he plays bishop g2, I play e5, he plays knight d5, I could play e4. And I was like, look at this big black center, the BBC. It's huge. Like, it's crazy. Like, this is, I'm like, dude, am I winning here? Am I winning here? And my conclusion was absolutely not. My conclusion was my pawns are overextended and they're going to get attacked very, very quickly. For example, d3. I cannot defend this pawn on e4. I can't. Like, there's no possible way for me to defend it. Then I have to take then. Okay, well, after I take, he takes. And let's say I play bishop e6. Castles. Knight c3. Rook e8. I'm like borderline losing with these two bishops now. Queen d7. Queen d2. Like, how am I surviving actually? Legitimately, I might have to give up my bishop. So maybe I don't play bishop e6. Maybe I play knight c6. But this position does not look very comfortable for me. I just have weak squares now. Like, especially this d5 square. And what do I have to show for it? Like, not really much. You know? He has this like, his pawn is stuck on d3. Doesn't really mean much. You know, he can put his bishop on f4. Like, yeah, life is tough. Life is tough. But I spent like over 10 minutes or about 10 minutes evaluating this position. And I decided this position is not good. So this did happen though. d4 did happen because I really just need to defend my pawn. Or I cannot defend my pawn on d5 anymore. So I have to push a d4. I did not want to take because if I do take, then he has really good control of the center. And he can expand with e4, maybe d4 at some point, maybe not now. And he has a really big center. And long term, he has more center pawns than me. He has e, d, c. I just have e and c. So I'm missing out on central control. So I push d4. I have more space in the center. But I'm not going to commit to f5 and e5. I'm just going to simply develop a piece. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to play a super simple setup. After he castles, I'm playing queen c7, I'm playing bishop d7, I'm playing both my rooks in the d and c files, I'm playing bishop e8 to get my rook out of the way, and then I can think about expanding with the center later. I can think about expanding on the queen side later. I'm just going to develop all my pieces first, play chess, go from there. Seems reasonable enough to me. After the bishop goes to d7, maybe I can move my knight, and then go for a trade, let's get bishop trade. Life is going to be okay. I have more space in the center. I have this static advantage. It's going to, like, I just need to calm down and not do anything crazy. He plays d3, blockading the d4 pawn, opening up the door for his bishop, and I play bishop d7, just connecting my rooks here, preparing to centralize my rooks. And he plays queen h5. Well, I guess he plays e3 first. He can't play queen h5 because his queen doesn't have vision on this diagonal yet. He plays e3. Now I play rook f d8. Because I really am thinking about this move bishop e8. Because what is his plan? In this position, like after he castles, like what is his plan? His plan is to play d3, e3, and try to chop away at my center. Pawn breaks. Pawn breaks. You need to be thinking about pawn breaks as that is a source of counterplay. So his only pawn break is with e3. And if he does play e3, I don't want to take, because that would get rid of my big center. I want him to take me, and then he's left with a backwards pawn. So let's fast forward a bit. e3. If I take, he could take back with the bishop, or the pawn, and he's gonna push a d4 and try to have central control. But if I play like rook fd8, which is what I did in the game, and if he takes me, then I take back with my knight, and now this pawn on d3 is a permanent weakness for the rest of the game. If he plays bishop b2, for example, then I play bishop c6. I'm attacking his bishop. Let's say he trades. This pawn is a weakness. I will pile up pressure. I will double up. I will triple up on this file. And eventually, maybe I will win this pawn. It is a juicy target for the rest of the game. That's kind of the idea. So I play rook up d8. He plays queen h5 now. And my first instinct was, oh, well, that's dumb. g6. I attack the queen. And I realized to my horror, oh my god, knight takes g6. And after h takes g6, bishop takes g6, pawn takes, queen takes g6, king f8, queen h6 check, king e8, queen g6 check, king f8, queen h6 check. I thought this was a draw. Looking at it now, after queen h6 check, I have king f7. But then he has queen h5 check, king f6. Oh, I'm playing with fire here. Maybe I could go king g7, but then f takes. Am I really surviving this? Like rook here, check. And like I'm getting like checkmated in some cases if I'm not careful. Like this is very, very scary. I would not be. I think it's probably a draw here. I think it's most likely a draw. And if black tries to win, they get checkmated, I think. I was like, wow. g6, wow. Queen h5 and trying to induce g6, that's crazy. But I have one other idea. h6. That's my only other move. In this position, I was like, I cannot believe this. Like, I was literally like, I cannot believe this. Like, I can't believe I blundered a draw. Like, when he first played queen h5. I was like about f5. I was like, that's my other move. But then I dropped the... Then, I forgot what I was thinking. Why did I not like f5? Bishop g2. I mean, this pawn on e6 is always weak. That doesn't help. So I was calculating f5 as well. But I ended up going with h6 just because it stopped all the threats. And more importantly, after he moves his knight back. So firstly, if I do nothing, if I play rook ac8, he's going to take on d4. And if I take, he takes, I takes, and he might just take the pawn on h6. If I take, how am I surviving? f5 is how I survive, I guess. And then you can go check here, check here, check here, and he's out of checks. And I might go on to win this game. That's not super easy for me to find. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. That's not super easy for me to find. Point is, I'm scared of bishop takes h6 tactics, but I have a perfect solution. Bishop e8. If you take on d4, f5. I attack the queen. I attack the bishop at the same time. If you continue taking my pawns, I take queen here. Oh, actually, you can't go there. We go like queen g4, for example. I can take, attacking the knight. If you go check, I go here. Life is great. I win. Your knight's hanging, queen's hanging, pawn's hanging, everything's hanging. Life is good for me. So I'm threatening f5. That's the point. With bishop e8, I'm also opening up my rook on the d file, and my bishop is not bad on e8. He goes queen h3. And another idea, like even though f5 no longer wins a piece, I play f5 anyways. Because this bishop is the only thing guarding the d3 pawn. So after the bishop moves, he could go back to g2. But now I'm going to take the pawn on e3. He told me after the game that the engine says that actually is not that bad for white as long as he takes back with the bishop. He cannot take back with the pawn. He doesn't have that much counterplay because his bishop isn't on this open diagonal. And the point is, if rook takes, then knight f4, attacking the rook and attacking the pawn on e6. If I go back to d8, he takes here, forking. If I go back to d7, then takes, once again, attacking the queen. And it's not super easy to make a move. It also attacks the pawn on c5 as well. So if queen e5, then, you know, I'm not sure what the best move is. Queen e5 does defend the pawn, but it's awfully suspicious. This whole position is kind of awfully suspicious for black. Point is, after bishop takes e3, rook takes d3 isn't that good. Apparently, according to the engine, white gets enough counterplay with the knight going to e6 and the c5 pawn being weak. I don't exactly understand how, but like, point is, like, look at these bishops on an open board. It's kind of scary. My bishops aren't as good, and I have a lot of weaknesses because I push all my pawns. So I think that's the idea. But he does end up trading, and now the game is over. He plays e takes d4, and if I take back with the pawn, I have a slight advantage because I have the bishop pair. His light squares are a bit weak, so I'm going to try to make a battery on this diagonal and try to checkmate him. But, you know, it's going to be a long game. Wrong. After e takes d4, I find a nice move, queen f3, a in-between move, attacking his knight on e2. And if he defends his knight, because if he moves his knight, then I can take with the rook and if I take with the pawn here, his d3 pawn is not a weakness. Like, it's a pawn that's stuck backwards, but it's not a weakness though, because I can't target it because my own pawn is in the way. I want a piece on that square, not a pawn. So, but, you know, if I play queen f3, trying to make him move his knight, well, if he doesn't and plays like rook e1, bishop c6, you lose the game. Checkmate's coming. You can't stop it. Crazy. Technically, looking at it now, king f1 does stop the checkmate. I thought it didn't in my head. But queen h1 check, knight g1, and like the game goes on. Surprisingly, believe it or not. Yeah, so I guess after king f1, we just queen takes d3, I guess. I actually don't know what the best move is here. It's not super intuitive for me. So, that being said, he did not play rook e1. He played knight f4. And I want to play bishop c6, but d5 looks too annoying. I'm studying checkmate again, and there's no way for him to stop it. He could play queen g2, but then probably just queen takes, knight takes, and rook takes, and I'm doing quite well here. But my issue is, after knight f4 and bishop c6 is d5, after takes, pawn takes. I do not want to give up my light squared bishop. It's not bad, but why am I giving up? You know, it's equal material. Like, yes, black is probably slightly better because of the rooks and queens being more active, but it still didn't look like the most comfortable thing to me in the world. So that's why I played rook takes d4 first, because once again, if you play knight takes e6, then bishop c6, and white gets checkmated. So I just win a pawn after all said and done, because he plays queen g2, I take, he takes with the king, and I play e5, getting my pawn out of danger. I thought for a long time about king f7, then rook e1, bishop d7, and I was like, this is so passive. Like, I'm so passively defending. This is kind of pathetic. Like, this is not great. Like, it's probably not bad, but it certainly is not great. So that's why I decided to play e5. Much, much better. Now if knight d5, I have bishop c6 pinning the knight to the king, and I'm going to win a pawn. If he plays knight e6, which is what he did in the game, well, either way, this d3 pawn is hanging now, and I just win a pawn. And now I'm just a pawn up, and more importantly, I have the bishop pair. So what to do now? You're up a pawn, what to do now? I want to have the best pieces possible. Being up a pawn is not enough. I need to have high quality pieces. I need to have my rooks on an open file, my bishops on open diagonals. My bishops are on the edges of the board, basically. How can I improve my pieces? Well, firstly, the easiest thing to note is the light squared weaknesses around the king. If I can get a bishop to f3, I dominate white's position. That's a key feature here, the light squares around the king. If I can control the light squares around the king, I dominate white's position. And he plays knight c7, attacking both my rook and my bishop. So the easiest way to win this game is play bishop c6 check. And f3 would be a huge weakness, but maybe that's what he has to do. But instead he goes king g1, and I play bishop. First I get my rook out of danger. I play rook d8. I was thinking about playing rook c8 here, forcing knight to move, and then trading off the bishop, and then doubling up in the open file. And my conclusion was, bishop e2, bishop f6. My conclusion was, I think this is winning, but this is going to be way too hard. Like, this is going to take forever, and I have to win. This is going to take forever to win. So, but also, more importantly, why play a rook c8, a move that, forces him to play knight b5, a move that he already wants to play because the knight on c7 doesn't do anything. Because, after rook d8, if he goes knight e6, I just go rook d7, and this knight is trapped. I'm going to play king f7 the next turn, and he can't move anywhere. With bishop e2, I go king f7, he takes, I takes, and, I just win the game. So, yeah, rook c8 makes him do a move he already wants to do. That's why I play rook d8, rook a d8 instead, because now he plays knight b5 anyways. And he's attacking the a7 pawn, so I just kick him again. More importantly, if I just play rook d1, for example, then he could take the pawn, and he's threatening the bishop as well. This is probably still winning for black, but it's just annoying. So that's why I play a3 first, kicking the knight away. And I was really trying to evaluate all the endgames here. So I'm up a pawn. I want to either, checkmate him or trade everything off so my extra pawn is felt. And so I was really trying to think about rook d1 here, trading off all the rooks after bishop e2. I could play rook takes. He could play rook takes. I could play rook d2. But then he takes my pawn. So I would have to defend my pawn. And then he played knight c2. And I'm like, but I can play here, but I can go here. But I can go here. This is winning, probably. It was all just very confusing. So, more importantly, I shouldn't say it's all just very confusing. I didn't see a clear advantage. Not a clear advantage. I didn't think it was that good. Because look at the quality of the pieces here. My rooks are active on the open file. My bishop can go to f3 soon. Actually, I do it immediately. I just play bishop f3 now. And completely locking down the light squares around his king. The only piece that is not as good, not that good, is this dark square bishop for black. All my other pieces are way better than white's than the counterparts and white's counterparts. Way better. My rook's better than his rooks. My light square bishop better than his knight. And he develops his dark square bishop, but I play e4, solidifying my pieces on his side of the board. And he plays bishop e5. I play king f7, and he plays h4. I think he wanted to play bishop f4 without having to worry about bishop g5. So that's why he played h4. Um, he wants to rotate his bishop to f4 to guard the dt square so I can't infiltrate. He also wants to rotate his knight back to c2 to e3. So I was a little bit surprised that he didn't go knight c2 now. But honestly, I think it probably loses on the spot because of rook d2. If you go rook fc1, then I can go bishop e2, and the knight is pinned to the bishop. And what is there to do? There's literally nothing to do. You could go rook b1, but then bishop d3, and now the knight is pinned to that rook. And this is just bad news bears for all of them, for all white's pieces. So I think that's probably why he went bishop e5, so he can go knight c2 successfully. But that allows me to bring my king in and trade off this bishop. This bishop was my worst piece. This bishop on e5 for white is his best piece. So I trade off his best piece. I centralize my king. Because another thing I was thinking about was, okay, well now, if my king's already on e5, then maybe I can play rook d1 now and just trade off all of the rooks, and maybe now this endgame is winning because I'm closer to his queenside pawns than he is, and I can just gobble everything up Pac-Man style, and that's really great for me. So I definitely considered that. But he played knight e3, and I realized something, that my bishop on f3, it's perfect for checkmate. g5. He should not take. He did take in the game, but he is trying to play fast, and I'm getting lower on time. At this point, I have about, 12 minutes, 11 minutes, something like that. So he's just trying to play fast because I'm getting lower on time. He shouldn't have taken, although honestly, what else is there to do? If he just plays rook c1, for example, rook ac1, just a waiting move, then I could take on h4, he can take back, and then I can play rook g8 check, king h3, rook g2 check. He can't go to h1 or else I set up discovered attacks, so you have to go to h3. And the game goes on. Probably I would play f4, attacking the knight, and the g2 square is covered by the knight. Oh, that's not good. That means rook g8 check, king h2, and h4 now. F4 now, attacking the knight. And the knight has nowhere to go. So now, knight c2, for example, then check here. And maybe, honestly, yeah, what is the best way to win this? Maybe rook g4, trying to go rook takes, and if h3, then bishop e2 check, defending the rook on g4 still. After king h2, there's takes here, check here, and mate. So I think that's what needs to be done. But what happens in the game, though, is he takes. I put my rook on the... Oh, he plays knight g2 to preemptively stop checkmate. And I put my rook on h8. So now he cannot move his knight at all. And I just double up on the h file. And it's game over. Knight h4 to prevent checkmate. I just take it. He takes my bishop. And the game is quickly over after a few more trades. And that is it. Okay, he resigns because he's going to go king g2. And I'm going to go check here. And yeah, I'm just up a rook here, and I'll just win all the pawns and win the game from there. So really, what did that game showcase? I think it showcased how you should really think about piece quality. Another thing about piece quality, when you're up a pawn, don't just think about the pawn, think about your pieces. Which pieces are better than his pieces? Can he improve his pieces? Yes or no? Those are the things you have to consider when you're trying to convert a pawn up advantage. But anyways, I got a little bit lucky there. It was a very interesting game, interesting opening. I'm gonna go hit the game review, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.